Hi everybody, and welcome to Jimmy Dragon Studios. Well, I seem to be on a little roll with these Disney videos I am making. So let's get into the drawing that I'm working on. Today, I will be doing a drawing session for a movie that had a rough history with Disney. That movie is known as the Black Cauldron. This movie is something that I have grown a fondness for. I too had a rough history with this movie. Let me set the scene. The year is 1985. My parents decided to take me and my sisters to the theaters to watch a new Disney movie, The Black Cauldron. The movie starts up and I start seeing a dark theme of an introduction. Throughout the movie, I witness skeletal undead creatures crawling throughout the film. Oh, the film had its okay moments as well. Well, that 10-year-old me wasn't too happy with the undead. Suffice it to say, I wasn't happy with this movie choice my parents made for me. I found this movie downright creepy and scary for me. Let's just say that 10-year-old me didn't want to watch this movie ever again. Quite a few years go by. I don't remember how, but I give the movie another chance to watch. I'm probably in the end of high school or the beginning of college. Me and a friend of mine are watching the movie. I must admit that I did think the movie was okay. So once again, I haven't seen the movie in many years. Thanks to my subscription to Disney Plus, I was able to watch the movie again the other day. I must admit, I do think that the movie is very creepy. However, I did enjoy it a lot. I have to say, as an adult, I can appreciate this movie more now than when I was a kid in the 80s. I'm not sure how I felt when I saw it during the mid-90s when I gave it another chance. For some reason, I don't remember it that much. Today, I can appreciate this movie much more. It's a fantasy movie that is dark. It's almost sad, and it even has sacrifice. I won't spoil the movie if you have never seen it, but I do believe that it's worth the watch. I have grown to even love this movie. The characters are honestly not that memorable, but one character I did remember throughout the whole time I knew of this movie was Gurgi. I don't know what he is. Gurgi is just Gurgi. I like the way he is. The funny thing is, when I watched this movie the other day, Gurgi reminds me of a bit of Dobby from Harry Potter and Smeagol from Lord of the Rings. So watching this movie made me want to get a little artistic again and do another piece of Disney fan art. This was why I chose Gurgi to draw and be the subject of this drawing session and video. So I started to draw Gurgi. Well, more like try to draw Gurgi. I was really struggling with the drawing. When I did try to get up for the day, I did say to myself that I should draw for the day. You can say that this drawing session was a bit of a forced drawing session. However, that usually doesn't last long when I start drawing, and I felt that I was getting in the mood. That is why I do these sketch sessions before I start the actual work. I also do these sketch sessions to loosen myself up and get the drawing ideas I want to do. Today I was struggling. I felt that every drawing I was doing just wasn't coming along the way I wanted it to. Gurgi looks like an easy character to draw, but as I was trying to draw him, it looked like to me that wasn't the case. Gurgi has these angles that are challenging to me. I found myself going to the eraser a lot and trying to fix these angles of his fur or the placement of his eyes. His nose is a little challenging. I find that throughout the animation, it seems that his nose changes shape often. As I draw, or trying to draw Gurgi, I noticed that he has a lot of similarities to some kind of a dog. Maybe that is what Gurgi is. Some kind of a dog. I don't know. A dog who really likes apples. That was something throughout the movie that was the running gag that kept the interest up or gave the movie that comic relief that it needed. Anyway, it was apparent that I needed to do a sketch session that was a little different. A little later that day, I was asking myself, what did the Disney animators do to learn to draw Gurgi? There is a whole team of people who would draw this little guy. I remembered that the animators would learn off of character sheets that were created to learn to draw the characters at different angles. I looked online for actual character sheets of Gurgi. I'm happy to report that the internet didn't let me down. I found 2 pages of construction on how they would construct this little guy. I decided to crop out 2 sections of the character sheets to sort of cheat off of. When I say cheat, I mean trace. That's right. I decided to trace the drawings that were provided on the character sheets. Now, I also wanted to try something else. I was studying the way the character was made when I was tracing it. After that, I decided to give it a go myself next to the tracing on the same sheet of paper. I noticed I was doing better with the drawings. I was noticing how Gurgi was being constructed. When you break it down, he was getting easier to understand. I decided to break out the sketchbook once again to have another drawing session of Gurgi. I wanted to give it a go again myself to see if I could get the way Gurgi was constructed. All I have to say about this was wow. It's amazing when you actually take time to plan your drawings. The drawings I did this time of Gurgi was like night and day. All I had to say is those Disney animators knew what they were doing. It really pays to study the character sheets. If you have a character you want to draw, study the character sheets. I decided to jump into my actual drawing I wanted to do. I started to sketch out the base of what I learned onto my actual piece of Bristol paper that I like to use. That was a mistake, as you will see. I was going so well with the drawing that I wanted to do. When I was finished with the drawing, I noticed that the drawing was not centered on the page. Well, it was centered, but it was mostly on the top half of the page. I needed the drawing in the actual center of the page. Well, I decided to take a piece of tracing paper and I traced my drawing onto the tracing paper. Then I took my clutch pencil that I have because it's a really thick graphite and I smeared it on the back of the page. I took the tracing paper and made it into a piece of transfer paper. I centered the drawing on the paper and traced it again. This time it was centered. I sketched the drawing again and cleaned it up as best as I could. Now it was perfect and I felt Gurgi was at home. I figure at this time it was time to lay down the inks for the drawing. And yes, this is my favorite part of the drawing process. I started to place down the usual simple lining. I basically took a thin fine liner pen and just did the simple lining. I just wanted to get the lines down. After I got the basic lines, I went to town with the erasing again. I probably should have used a different piece of paper when I made my mistake of centering the drawing. I also didn't want to be wasteful by using another piece of paper either. Plus, this paper isn't cheap either. It's also a good thing that I stocked up when it was on sale. I only try to shop for paper when the big sales are going on. Buy one, get one free. It happens. When I got the erasing done, I felt that it was looking better. This was when I decided to get the main inking down. I started to go back over the lines with a thicker ink pen. Also, when I was erasing, it fades the ink that is already down. Going back over it darkens things up, and in all honesty, it looks so much better too. I finished inking Gurgi with the main inks. I have to say I'm pretty happy here. I really am liking how this is going to turn out. I have to keep positive about my art. Honestly, I am very positive about my art. I'm actually that kind of person who isn't really unhappy about the things we create. Oh sure, there are aspects that we can improve about our art. I see things days after about my art that could use work. I try to use these as teaching moments for me to work and improve on with later drawings. It's the cycle of life in art. Okay, it's background time. I started sketching out the background. I wanted to use something that was still true to the original animation. I took inspiration from the few reference pictures I downloaded and started to sketch something true to the animation while trying to make it my own. I was trying something else here. I wanted to incorporate Gurgi's catchphrase somewhere in the drawing. He loves his munchies and crunchies. I thought of using a speech bubble in the drawing, but I thought against that. It would unbalance what I have already done. Off camera, I went into Photoshop and I printed up the font that I liked that would fit this drawing. I sized it to the size I think would fit this drawing and transferred it by tracing the font the same way I did the tracing paper from before. It looked pretty good if you ask me. I did try to make the font a little of my own. On to the inks once again to finish up this drawing. Well, finish up the rest of the inks at least. This part went well, and I do like the way it's coming out. I did feel that with the inks of the background, I was losing Gurgi's face to the background I did. So I darkened the lines around his face to make him pop out from the background. I think that was accomplished. It will be better separated once I dive into the coloring of this drawing. The coloring was very nice with this drawing, and the colors came out nicely too. I had to do something very different with this drawing. I usually like to use my Copic markers mostly on a drawing. Gurgi was a different color than what I'm used to. Gurgi was full of muted colors. He had a lot of different colors toned with grays and browns. The grays were a lot of warm grays, something I don't have in my supply of Copic markers. I had to turn to a different set of markers I have, and those were the Winsor & Newton Pro markers. This set also has a lot of those base colors I needed. So with the help of those and the Copic markers, I was able to get the right colors I needed. Remember when I mentioned that I wanted to separate Gurgi from the background around his face? Well, I think I accomplished that. It was a challenge in finding the right combination of markers to blend to make the background coloring just right. In the end, I did it. I was really happy with how this drawing was coming along. I had to blend the colors with warm grays. I am so happy that these markers can layer so well like that. The markers blend, and I feel that the coloring with the alcohol markers is a dream. I really love this medium, and I think it shows in this drawing. If you feel that you are getting great value from this video, please click that like button. If you'd like to see more of what I have to show you in the future, please click that subscribe button too. In the end here, I added the finishing touches for this drawing by pulling out my white paint pen and adding in the highlights around the eyes and trying to get a shine for the nose. I do believe the more I drew Gurgi, the more I see that he was modeled after some kind of a dog. Not sure what kind, so if you can tell us all the kind of dog he looks like, put it in the comments below. I'll pin it too. Overall, I loved how this drawing came out. I have learned to really appreciate this animation. I know it's not one of Disney's best animations. In fact, it's far from it. However, I have learned to love this one. I know this animation has had its rocky beginnings and its fair share of hardships. Go look up the history of this movie. It's an interesting watch and one that had me surprised with some of the twists and turns between this and the beginnings of another animation studio that was on the rise during this time in 1985. Anyway, I thank you so much for getting this far into the video and watching it fully. If you are interested in another Disney animation that I have an appreciation for, be sure to click this video in the link that is right over here.